Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. And as you know, we record these calls and place our recordings on our YouTube channel. So if you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now. Kumar, floor is yours, man. Take it away.
Thanks, Naveed. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kumar Alamraju. I am one of the cloud solutions architects here in Microsoft. Today, we will be talking about some new features that were announced in the recently concluded Microsoft Build conference. Obviously, there are tons of exciting announcements, but over the coming weeks, we will touch upon the new features. But today, we'll be focusing on, can you all see my screen? Yeah. So today we'll be
Yep.
talking about some of the features. One of them is Foundry Local, as you see on the screen. But I want to start off with this slide. It's Azure AI Foundry because all the new features will be consolidated into this one single unit called Azure AI Foundry. And I hope some of you know, if not, Azure AI Foundry is our unified platform. It's a single place from Azure that helps developers and enterprises to build, deploy, and manage pretty much all your AI applications. You'll find um, humongous catalog for whatever you need it, ranging from Microsoft's or Azure OpenAI's models, from any open source, from NVIDIA, from Llama, from whatnot. You'll find it, and then based on your use case, you can continue to use it. So that's what you see here. On the left-hand side, you see the developers using the tools like GitHub or VS Code to develop these applications. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the edge. That's where we'll be talking about. And in the past, as you guys are aware, you already know about Azure Arc, which allows you to gives you a single pane of glass to project your non-Azure resources into Azure. And now we have recently introduced this Foundry Local, which I'll touch upon it. And in the middle, what you see is all the features, which are fully baked with Azure's security, zero trust policies, governance and whatnot. So it's a single place for all your AI needs in Azure. Okay. So with that introduction, I'll move on to the next slide. Just give me one sec. Yeah, so let's talk about the Foundry Local. So let's imagine we are building a next generation AI powered app, right? And we all know sometimes we are not yet ready to deploy this in a public cloud, or we have some valid reasons for data sovereignty reasons, or in the form of a POC first before we even get budget approvals, right? So we want this to be obviously local and private for now, but at the same time, for the data sovereignty reasons, it needs to work without an internet connectivity for that matter, right? So we want this to be fast, private, and then work anywhere and without any internet connectivity. And sometimes, it starts off with the prototyping, but it's beyond that. You have plans to deploy this to real app, to the real users, right, with AI. And most importantly, it needs to deliver a value, right? And the other thing is it needs to be cost effective. That's where the Foundry Local comes into place, which gives you a high performance local AI runtime stack, right? That brings the richness of Azure AI Foundry's power to the edge. When we say edge, it's your local devices. Today we support on Windows and Mac. This is a public preview feature that was announced in Microsoft Build conference. But essentially, Foundry Local lets you build and ship cross-platform AI-powered apps that runs these base models, the tools, and now recently Azure AI agents directly on device. When we say on device, as most of you know, it's your end user devices, whether it's Windows or Mac and whatnot, right? And we also release something like Windows AI Foundry, but I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But essentially, the goal is to deliver a best-in-class AI capabilities across cross-silicon performance on hundreds of millions of whether it's a Windows devices or Mac devices, right? That this is why it's a local AI. It's going to be highly efficient and starting from POC and ready it all the way to the production, right? So, and then essentially, as you see, you can use Foundry Local using CLI or SDKs, which I'll show you in a demo. And then Foundry Local has its own management SDKs in Python, in .NET, which you'll be able to leverage it. But most importantly, it runs on the Onyx runtime, which gives you a high performance to run on it, right? So now you can ask me, hey, do I need to have GPUs or whatnot? So if you see, for example, today I'm presenting this on my MacBook. But even these days, some of these Windows devices comes with the NPUs or some sort of GPUs, right? So Foundry Local brings that power and trust of AI Foundry on your devices, right? I mean, this includes everything that you need to run your, these AI generated apps locally, right? So these are some sort of a high level architecture that I wanted to show. But we have an excellent documentation that I would highly encourage you guys to take a moment to talk about, to explore that, okay? This is in public preview, but and I don't have the GA dates, but hopefully we may make it available to the GA sometime, I believe a later part of this year. Okay. So let's quickly spend on obviously the in the futures, right? As I already summarized a few minutes ago, it allows us to run these models locally on your local hardware. That way, you're leveraging your existing investment versus capex versus opex, where you will have to invest on the cloud or whatever it is. So and then there are some preset models that comes with in the Foundry, Foundry Local, that you can download it and you can install it, and then you can play with those, right? Most importantly, cost is what matters before you really convince your, let's say, senior management or stakeholders to get some budget approvals. That is something that in Naveed and I see all the times when we talk to the customers, right? So cost efficiency is what Microsoft does from day one in terms of making these new innovations available to the customers. Leverage your existing investment, and then once you know that this solution is available, then you can enhance this, make it available either it's on the edge or it's on the public cloud for global deployment, whatever it is. So you have all sorts of flexibility from Azure to make this AI development, right? And then, Foundry Local comes, richness comes with, you can use, sorry, there's a typo, it's APIs. You can use an Azure CLI for that matter. You can use SDKs and whatnot. So now you can ask me, what are some of these use cases? Most of the times it's always data sovereignty reasons, or I'm not yet ready to deploy this in a remote location, whether it's public cloud or elsewhere, right? So and data is very sensitive and highly confidential. When we work with, for example, some of these top research secret customers or government customers, they need to keep it sensitive, run it on the edge, which means that uh, there is an internet connectivity, but you cannot really open the doors. It needs to stay pretty much in your data centers, right? And then anytime you use these AI models, there is something like inference cost, right? So you do wanted to maybe reduce those if at all possible initially as part of a POC. And when you know that you are ready uh, to take it to the cloud, then you can seamlessly transfer it to the public cloud. Or if you are happy, you can continue to run this in your local hardware. Maybe you have invested on it, right? So you can continue to use that. And then one of the other the selling points with the edge is obviously you can't afford even milliseconds, microseconds of latency. Whether it's although we are talking about AI, but it could be anything. So for that reasons, you wanted to have a low latency for graphical applications and whatnot. So these are some of the use cases that I think of, but there are more. The list is huge. But these are some of the things that I think where Foundry Local comes in handy for you to really experiment before you actually consider deploying to the cloud, right? Because today, the day we think about AI, we think that, okay, you need to deploy this in Azure or any other public clouds, but it doesn't need to be, right? You can as well play with this in your local hardware, or maybe you may have some powered machine, whether it's Mac or maybe some very expensive Windows server which has NPUs, GPUs, and whatnot, right? So you could certainly leverage that initially in your local data center before considering expanding this to the clouds, like bursting, right? Okay, so let's talk about the install. So we have the Foundry local, which can be installed on the Mac OS today, and it's as simple as Brew install. It's like Brew is an equivalent of a Python script for that matter that can be installed. All it requires is Brew, tap Microsoft and install and run with it. It's as simple as that. And if you want to run this on Windows, then the same thing. Winget is the equivalent of Brew, where you could just download this uh, Microsoft's equivalent Foundry and run with it. Now, Windows Foundry is ideally optimized for Windows hardware, for NPUs and everything. But it's completely up to you. Depends on your use case. Today you can run on Mac or Windows. So now the question that obviously comes is again one of my peers kind of put together. So thanks to her. But if you ask me, hey, what's the difference between this Foundry Local and Windows Foundry? Why should I go for it? So obviously these are some of the differences that you could be. But if you wanted to have more optimized for your OS level integration, you can go for Windows. Otherwise, if you wanted to build these cross-platform stuff, you can just use Foundry Local. It's one of those things where build once, run everywhere kind of thing. So if that's your use case, you can use a Foundry Local, or you can just use a Windows model. So whatever works for you. Microsoft is giving these options. At the end of the day, the goal is empowering the developers, giving them more options, at the same time making it more cost effective, bringing this technology to the edge, to the end user devices, so that you can really take advantage of this new innovation, right? So now let's see quickly. So I'm gonna, so I was just playing with it. Hope you all can see my screen. So this morning I was playing with it. Obviously I'm demonstrating this on my Mac. So, so the first thing obviously you have to do is, these two steps, right? Brew install and brew local. So, which I have done it, but, I'll just show it to you again. It's one of those things. In my case, it's already installed, right? So is the font okay? I hope so. Yeah, that's it. So it says it's already installed. Now I wanted to I want to run a model. In this case, it's Phi is one of the Microsoft's native models that you could just run with it. Obviously, since I downloaded, it's already in my local cache. Now this is leveraging the GPUs on my Mac, right? Let's hope the demigods cooperate because this was working fine in the morning, but yeah, there we go. So now here we can really ask anything, right? Obviously, you may not get the best experience, but at least you get to play with it, okay? Just asking something, listen, yeah. See, it popped up something, right? So you will be able to really, play with this thing. Um, some of those things. Okay, so this way, what did we do? Nothing. All we did was ran a couple of brew commands or equivalent winget in Windows, and then boom, you're running a model and it's good with it. Now, this is just the CLI based. Obviously, you're not going to use it, right? So we have shipped some examples for you to really play with it. So these are some of the examples in our GitHub repo. I would highly encourage you guys to take a look at it. We build some examples on Python or maybe on .NET or Node, whatnot. So we pulled a couple of examples. So let me show you this example. What this example does is a Python example. So it obviously it reads a file and then it kind of summarizes it, right? So I have this txt file that I asked, hey, can you just summarize what's in the text available? It's obviously a big text file, but I'm just asking it to summarize it. And if you see, it doesn't require an internet connectivity. It's all running on your local edge, right? Look at this code. It's importing some packages. There is no need to specify your open API key or the endpoint, nothing. Nowhere you are reaching out to the internet, right? It's just a simple Python code that you are checking the model and then you are just invoking this and then it just printing the summary, period, right? Simple Python code. So it's as simple as that, right? So similarly, you can play with a lot of those things. I just wanted to just kind of show it to you guys. I would highly encourage you guys to take a look at it and play with it, and let's see. I would highly encourage you guys to explore this greatest technology. If you see this, this is where we put together about Foundry. There are some tutorials, some CLI SDK references, and then there is some thing about some samples and whatnot. So I would highly encourage you guys to take a look, play with it. This also has some steps about Windows equivalent. If you are on Windows, this is what you need to do. Since I was on Mac, I played with it. In fact, I also tried on Windows last week, although I don't have a good NPU-based Windows device, but it works. It's really works. It's beautiful. It's a very, very powerful feature. Uh, I know I really wanted to, that's why I wanted to mention that. And then there are these things that you could really play with it if you wanted to know all the models, for example. So these are some of the things that you could do, right? All these models. So if you wanted to really list all the models, yeah. See, these are the models that we have as part of Foundry Local. Now, I haven't downloaded all these things, but if let's say in the future you have a need to use DeepSeek, right, or some other model that's make it available, so you can really download and use it. It's as simple as that. So it will download for the first time when you run it, and then it will use a local cache, right, which will make it faster. So with that, then I will move on to the next one. Okay. Any questions thus far? Okay. So this is another thing that I wanted to talk about. Model router in Azure AI Foundry. So this was also announced in Microsoft build. It's one of the powerful feature. Now, if you, for example, let me show you. So if I go to my Azure portal, and if you see, just bear with me for a moment. So if you see this is my Azure portal. This is my Azure Foundry, and then I logged into the Azure portal. So now if you see this catalog, there are a bunch of them, right? You name it, you'll find it here, whether it's for inferencing, chat models, and what all the things. So now I get confused. It's too much. And I don't know which model does what or which one is more efficient, right? Every day we see Llama does an excellent job of so and so, or maybe it's NVIDIA and whatnot. So it's humongous, right? So we don't know which model to use to run our application, right? This is where this model router comes into the play. And if some of you are aware, then there is something like Azure AutoML in our Azure Machine Library. So what it does is it picks the best machine learning model on your behalf and runs it. You don't have to worry about which model to use, whether it's supervised learning, unsupervised, and whatnot. I think the same concept goes here, but the model router in Azure AI Foundry is a deployable chat model, and I'll talk about what I mean by deployable chat model that is trained to select the best large language models, LLMs, right? And what it does, it responds to a given prompt in real time, right? Essentially, model router, is a combination of, pre-existing models, which I have shown you the model catalog to provide developers best performance, or I would say high performance, while, let me highlight this, while saving on compute costs wherever possible. And these are all packaged as a single model deployment, right? So all you have to do is come to the AI Foundry and then just pick this, deploy this, model router. That's it. We take care of everything on your behalf. You don't have to worry about, hey, should I use GPT-4.1 or O4 Mini or so Nano, whatnot. There are too many of these things, right? It's going to drive us crazy. The goal is for you to focus on your AI application, and we take care of all the heavy lifting. We will worry about you leave that headache of picking the right model for Microsoft. That's all we do, right? So now let me show you. So you see this Azure AI Foundry. So you deploy the Azure AI Foundry and then you launch it. And then here you see this model catalog and playgrounds and whatnot. So here if you so the first thing you're gonna do is you come here. Here is the model catalog. Sometimes even I get confused. So I'll just deploy. So you come here, deploy model. So before the model router, so these are all the things. So for example, I know what GPT-4.1 does, or I know what Nano does, or maybe I'm in a POC, so I wanted to keep my costs minimum. So I want to try this O3 and whatever it is, right? So I deploy this first, and then in my code, I'll specify the model name, the API key, and then the endpoint, and then run my code, right? But with model router, all you have to do is you just come here, deploy this, you select this guy, right? And then confirm. It's kind of telling you it's deploying in this region. Then, you can just give a name, right? It's another thing. That's all it does. And deploying this doesn't cost us. It's only when you start inferencing it, that's what it matters, right? So now once you deployed it, obviously you can generate obviously none of us use this playground, but playground is only for POCs or to validate it. So you just come here, right? So this is the chat playground. So let's try a simple task. A simple task could be, for example, let me help me understand. Let me talk about Azure AI Foundry. So if you see here, it invoked GPT-4.1 Nano, right? Now, did you ask us to invoke Nano? No, we did this on your behalf. So that's what it does. Now, obviously, it all depends on the task that you will be invoking. If it is a simple task, we'll invoke the base model, but it all depends on the complex task. So this morning, I was really playing with some prompts to see which of my prompts will really invoke some other model. So I was struggling. So let me see. Let me see.
Mark, we have 2 minutes, man. Just a time
Yeah,
check.
I'm done. Yeah. So if you see this, if you guys see this, it invoked a different marketing one because the task is complex. It's different in nature. It has to give you a detailed one. So if you see here, it invoked some other model. So again, you need to play with this. But all I would like to say is we take care of all the heavy lifting on your behalf. All you have to do is you deploy this as a chat model and you are good to go. Period. So if you see here, I have deployed some of these chat models before giving this demo. That's all you have to do. You don't need to delete this, but if you want to, you can delete it and you are good to go. In the past, we had to manually deploy these models one by one by one. And based on your task, you need to specify GPT-4o or O3 mini or whatever it is. But now, all you have to do is it's like a router. I mean, as the name signifies, it takes care of it intelligently routes the request based on the based on the task that you specify. Okay, so that's about it. These are the key features that I wanted to cover today. There are more exciting announcements that we plan to talk about it down the line, but that's pretty much it. Naveed, I hope I'm on time. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, folks, please feel free to open your mic if you have any questions. Thanks, Kumar. Okay. Last time there are no questions. I will give everybody their 1 minute back. And thanks, Kumar, for presenting. This is very useful. And hope. Oh, by the way, there won't be any session next week. And we will start week after. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day and great weekend. Thanks.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye now.
Bye bye.